Hey, everybody. It's Wednesday morning, 11 a.m. Central Time. I'm Dr. John Sherk, and that means it's Brown Bag Lunch, where I give you tips, tricks, ideas, and paradigms for how to recruit all the talent that you need, as well as how to exit and retire without all the drama and the risk involved. So, I had an interesting conversation this week with my new friend Jose in Tampa, Florida, at Air at Your Door. Great guy, great owner. Um, and we talked about when is the right time to start thinking through exit. When is it maybe too soon, right? So here, I want to just kind of reflect on that with you a little bit, because some of you may say, well, look, I'm only 35 years old. I'm only 45 years old. I'm 20 years away from retirement. Um, A, it sure seems like it's too early to be thinking about that. And B, uh, um, I don't want to retire yet. Like, I want to keep running this company. Okay. So I'm going to keep coaching you in this direction. And I promise you, if 100 of you reach out to me, I will tell 100 of you the same thing. The day to prepare for your exit is today. Start today. Now, why would you say that? Because um, for a couple of reasons. One, the things you have to do to prepare for your exit are just good business anyway, right? You want to generate a healthy company, that's the stuff you should be doing anyway to prepare for exit. If you think about someone who's coming in as a buyer, do they want to buy something that is entirely dependent on you as the owner to get it done? Absolutely not. I mean, if the whole company is dependent on you, they're not going to buy your company, right? But let's think about what normally happens. There's an assumption about the life cycle of a business that you kind of get some vision, you get a few guys, you get some business together, you start growing this thing, you develop some processes and some cash flow assumptions, and you do this for a few years, you make some money, and then you sell this thing, right? And that somehow what's happening in those years is the thing that the buildup of that or the routines of that are what that person wants to buy. Maybe, maybe not. Here's what's much, much more common, unless you're able to grow this thing up north of 10 or $15 million a year. What's much more common is I'd like to sell this thing, but friend, you're a good 5 years from getting top dollar for it. And here's why. It's entirely dependent on you. All of the processes are completely sort of idiosyncratized to a very few people, but especially to the owner in the organization. What the financials look like, the junk on the balance sheet, the way calls are taken, the way reviews are done. There's all manner of things that take form based on what makes sense to that particular owner with their particular idiosyncrasies and sensibilities. And it doesn't mean that the owner is weird. Let's say you have one owner who's very extroverted and a different owner who's very introverted. The processes in those companies will form differently. The introverted company will have much more written out processes. The extroverted company with the extroverted owner will have much more kind of big brush looking processes. Okay. Well, what's the good news, bad news about that? 85% of technicians are introverted. So when you think you're just going to be able to hand this thing off to someone else because they bought you for it, there's going to be a nice little exchange. Here's a check, here's the keys, and you walk off into the sunset. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. They're going to expect you to stay there another 3 to 5 years to earn out that money they're offering you because the thing can't run without you, right? So what's the fix for this? Don't get that started in the first place. From the beginning, think in terms of selling the company. Build it to sell. As my mentor, John Warlow, would say, build it to sell, right? Take your vision and instead of, and now look, let me back up and say, if you're starting a company, you got to do what you got to do to get it done, right? But your comfort zone, if it is around your ability to control what's happening, which is true for lots of owners, that's not a company that's going to be easy to sell for any value. It's just not. It's too dependent on you, and they can't buy you. They can only buy your enterprise. So instead of building up all these processes and systems that are dependent on you, and then having to break them all down, have your people unlearn and relearn those systems, take the things that you would do during the last 5 years and do them during the first 5 years, right? Now, what's the benefit of that? The essence of a company that's ready to be sold does not require the owner's involvement day to day. Now, I can tell you this. No matter what's going on in your life right now, there is one thing, it's absolutely true. 5 years from now, 5 years is going by either way. So you might as well get started. Listen, it's going to take you a few years to reset those processes, train other people to make certain decisions and do certain things that you do right now. And then if your company has any size at all, then they want to see a history of the company doing well without you, especially of the company growing without you. They want to see contracts with customers that aren't signed by you. They want to see a list of customers that have a primary relationship inside your company that are not with you. Now, look, that's not going to happen automatically. That's not the way people instinctively start businesses. Almost no one starts a business saying, from day one, I'm building this thing so it doesn't need me. The only people who do that are very skilled entrepreneurs or serial entrepreneurs. It's not automatic, right? So in my program where I talk about exiting and retiring, I've noticed I need to make some changes to it. Because I talk about exiting and retiring, and it makes it sound like I'm looking for somebody who's 60 years old, and 5 years from now, they want to retire. So we got to do some stuff to get ready, right? I'm also talking to that person. But I'm equally talking to the person who is just getting started, right? The time you begin your exit strategy is in year one, if you can, because from that point forward, you're building a thing that doesn't need you. If I have to articulate all the benefits of owning a business that doesn't need you, I mean, come on. Do you want to go on vacation or not? Do you want to spend your time growing the people in the organization while they do the work? Or do you want to spend all your time working in the business, not on it, right? There's all manner of benefits to building out this type of business, the type of business that could be sold at any time. I'll even throw this additional piece into the puzzle, not to be grim, but you don't know what's going to happen to you over the next 25 years. You may need, you could have a family health crisis, yourself, your spouse, your kids could be in an accident. There's all, your parents may need you. There's all manner of reasons why it's of benefit as soon as possible to get your business in a position to not need you day to day. That doesn't mean you ignore it, but to not need you to function day to day. That if you were gone for 3 months, they're going to be okay, right? So, as we talk about exit, I'm going to think it through. Maybe I need to kind of rename how we talk about this stuff. Exit is normal language. Retirement is normal language. But the reality is that a healthy business has an owner that doesn't require that person's involvement day to day. And that business is going to be able to grow and thrive much, much faster than the company that is dependent on its owner. Okay? So when we talk about, well, man, I've got to figure out marketing. I've got to figure out my processes. How am I going to compensate my people? All of that is the same stuff that you're going to do 25 years from now if you want to sell the company, except it's harder then than it is now because you got to unlearn and relearn a bunch of stuff. And people who know you one way have to start knowing you a different way. If from the beginning you're saying, look, listen, y'all, we're preparing this whole thing so that you are running this thing, not me. So there's certain kind of questions. You got to stop answering them. You got to answer a question with a question. Well, boss, what should we do when this situation comes up? Well, I don't know. What do you want to have happen? What do you think we should do? That's a different kind of leadership. It's a different, no pun intended, it's a different process entirely. Okay, so if you have some desire to sell your business someday, or frankly, if you just want to have the healthiest business possible, you got to yank yourself out of it somehow. And the easiest time to do that is at the beginning, not the end, when you have to do it anyway. All right. So if you'd like to talk more about this, talk about how to set this thing up from the beginning so it is a money-making machine without it taking your time 70 hours a week, let's talk. I know what that looks like. I know how to help you. My name's Dr. John Sherk, and this is Brown Bag Lunch. If you like what you hear, please forward it to someone else. Please tell someone else about it. And if you'd like to talk more about what you heard today, please comment below or reach out to me directly. I'd love to get on the phone and chat with you about it. Take care, and we'll see you next week.